out to be completely unreliable assholes.
Hello, Tim.
Hello, Ryan.
And hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 52 of Dismembering Horror, the podcast show where myself, Zak Bagans, Ryan McDuffie,
and myself, Tim Aslan.
Correct. Ryan and Tim and Zach today, we dismember a horror film, a new horror film every week. What do we do when we dismember a horror film, Tim?
Well, Zach, we watch a movie, and then we talk about what worked, and then we talk about what didn't work.
What didn't work?
And then what do we do next?
Things of note.
Right.
Whatever we found interesting or noteworthy about a horror film.
Horror film.
Horror film. And this may be our biggest case yet, Tim.
Oh, man. Was it ever?
It was. Okay. What else? Anything else to say about what our show is?
No.
Okay, then Tim, we got to set up this episode because this is...
I feel like you just did.
But this may be people need to know that this may be our biggest episode yet because you are because who is Zak Bagans, first of all? And what is your relationship to him and what he does?
Well, he's my best friend. Mm-hmm. We have a very intense relationship. We've known each other for so many years.
Okay, here's a good way to put it. So I come over to record this episode with Tim. We were recording the other episode when we then
right.
pulled this. So we were sitting down to record the previous episode, and when I show up, his TV is paused, and it's like some grainy, like it looks like it's a 70s film. And I say, "Oh, what movie are you watching?" And he unpauses it, and it's actually Ghost Adventures. He's on season 17 of 19 right now,
something
or something
like that. Yeah, that sounds about right.
And I didn't know about Ghost Adventures, specifically what it was before befriending Tim and working on this podcast with him. But Ghost Adventures is like one of the preeminent ghost hunting shows out there, in no small part at all to its host, Zak with a K Bagans.
Yeah, no C in there.
Whose signature thick glasses, we get the origin story here of them
right
in this film.
Yeah, in the first 12 seasons, he didn't have those glasses.
But post Demon House, he does. But anyway, just to say that when Tim...
He just wore cool Ray-Bans.
Tim always has this guy's TV show on.
It's like, it is the definition of my guilty pleasure.
Yeah. So, and here we are. I didn't know. Had you heard about this film, Tim? Did you know there was an actual Zak Bagans?
I kind of knew. I guess I kind of knew that. I knew that the movie existed, but I didn't know that the movie was this movie.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Like, I've seen this poster 20 times or 100 times or whatever when I'm scrolling through looking for a movie.
But it looks like just any other horror movie.
Yeah, and I think I always confused it with another possession movie. And so I was like, oh, I've seen that. And I just dismiss it.
So what is your fascination with the show?
Well, look, we've talked about me seeing a ghost before.
Yeah.
The one time. But prior to that, I had always just watched.
For reference, was our episode Airman Tari and the Devil.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. We looked it up last time. It starts about 3 minutes in.
So, I've always liked that shit. It's sort of the same reason I like horror stuff. It's like I grew up with a brother who would make me watch horror films, starting with Haunted Indiana, which was one of my recommendations a long time ago. So I like that stuff, and I like ghost stories and whatever. And then in the, whatever it was, maybe the late 90s-ish, or maybe early 2000s, when the first one, what was
Fear.
Well, Fear, yeah. So Fear sort of was the first TV show that had this element to it, I guess, of reality ghost haunting type stuff. And then right after that came Ghost Hunters, right? Ghost Hunters, yeah, the one that taps the Atlantic Paranormal Society or something like that. It's the two dudes who are plumbers. It's a famous one. It's like the big famous first one. And so the second that came out, I got into that. And like, I don't know, maybe a couple, 3 years into that, Ghost Adventures showed up as like a competitor.
You're just talking about your history with it, though. I mean, it's great, but I'm wondering, like, I mean, I love horror movies too, but I don't have this fascination with them. I love ghost stories too. And you aren't crazy about actual like narrative films about ghosts or hauntings.
Yeah.
So what is it about like this style that you said that has this quote unquote element to it? Like what itch is it scratching for you?
It's just the idea of catching something on camera that's paranormal. It's just that. So like it doesn't matter too much to me who in its fundamental form, it doesn't matter too much to me who like is hosting it or whatever. But once you get on board with Ghost Adventures and see what dorks they are, but they're trying so hard to like be cool guys, especially Zach. There's something so stupidly endearing about it.
Yeah.
I mean, the idea that every time the littlest thing happens, and half the time they'll call it out and be like, oh, that was just, the ice machine around the corner making a noise. But their reactions when it's happening are just fucking priceless. Like, they do this thing, all of them too do it, which is like, oh my God!
Yeah.
And it's consistent throughout the entire show, where it's like, they all love to yell for Zach.
Yeah.
Zach, get over here! It's shit like that. It's so funny to me.
Okay, and what I just wanted to stress
and,
too,
once in a while, they supposedly catch something that's sort of fun and interesting, and like if it were actually not a hoax, I would be fascinated by.
And that's what keeps you going.
Kind of, yeah.
But okay, Tim's trying to play it cool here. You're trying to play it cool
Not
here, Tim.
really.
No. As far as
you want me to talk about our bromance? It's a little one-sided.
No,
but eventually he'll come around.
Your enthusiasm, yes. Okay, eventually it'll come around, because Tim's enthusiasm and excitement when we pulled this and then sat down and it was like, I'm Zak Bagans, well, Tim was very excited, to say the least.
Yeah, pretty much. I just started yelling.
Precisely. Okay, we're gonna
I get a whole fucking dumb documentary with Zach.
Yeah, it was like 10 minutes shy of 2 hours too. This movie,
yeah,
if you want to call it that. Okay. Well, we'll get more into your love of all this and dissecting Zak Bagans. But so let's just get into, the trailer. Okay. So you'll hear the man himself here, I'm sure, if you haven't already.
Yeah.
So here's the trailer for Demon House.
I'm Zak Bagans. I'm one of the world's leading researchers on ghosts and demonology. And this film is cursed. A story about a demon possession makes international news.
Now look at one of the most documented cases of demon possession and exorcism in recent history.
The next day, over the phone, I buy the house, sight unseen.
In my 37 years of police investigation, I've never run into anything like that before.
I just got the keys to the demon house. You think it's dangerous for me to be in that house?
I wouldn't be there.
She had holes in both her wrists, just like little cuts.
They called 911.
They called 911.
They did.
There was an unidentifiable voice. I only heard it on the recording.
Who in there?
Something came back. I don't know if it was that demon, but something came.
I put the crucifix on her head. She began convulsing.
It was a 6 engraved in our back.
So, when watching that just now, Tim, the quote in there, you said that definitely wasn't the voice, or that wasn't it. That was saying who in there. That's the police officer saying what he heard,
right?
Which was in the movie.
That's true.
And I think that part is indicative of like the appeal of this kind of style. Do you remember the part in the movie? It's a police officer telling like the radio came on and he said, and then the voice said, "Who in there? Who in there?" And they froze on him and added an echo effect. Yeah. And like played a stinger underneath it. So yeah, exactly. So that's what this film is. And that for me is representative of all there is to love and hate about this film.
Who in there? Yeah, it's funny because honestly, that is the thing I dislike about all of these shows. I would much rather watch these shows with absolutely no like music or sound effects or anything underneath and just watch people like do their thing.
Yeah.
So this, now granted, I guess there's charm in the stupidity of the other thing that maybe is why I keep watching them, because it's sort of like it's like bemused eye rolling.
Yeah, exactly. So that's
with the other thing.
That's kind of my like feelings in a nutshell. And this is kind of like, you know what I do a lot. We're going to talk about specific elements and I'll have to parse what is working for me in that and what is not working for me in that. But I think that's why I mentioned that example as the style, and you just said it as far as...
This whole movie is going to be an exercise in the Ryan being able to do his thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, everything we say is also going to be a thing that didn't work.
Yep. Exactly. So that's why it's an interesting one where I have like... few things down, but there's a lot within each of those things. Okay, so I would rate it based on all that. I gotta give it a solid stream it. I love like ghost stories things too, you know, and just now, here's a good way to put it. Like I read the complete article that sort of made this case famous. And this case, for point of reference, it was like a big famous case. There's, you know, Fox News, different news outlets like reporting on it. Everyone knew about the house, the presumably Blumhouse or some other big production company is after the rights for it. But anyways, what was I saying? Oh yeah, stream it. I'd say stream it. Oh yeah. But me getting into like reading about it in the articles and stuff like that is because I'm so fascinated by the actual story and the details of what happens. That's my favorite part about, I want to say these kinds of documentaries. But as far as this style of documentary where it is, I don't know, there's quite a trade-off for embracing its style and then being actually able to tell a coherent, detailed story of the events. Where if like I'd be more forgiving of the film as a whole, or I'd give it a higher ranking and say rent it if there was actually a better presented account of the story inside.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But I mean, aside from that, I mean, it is pretty undeniably stupid fun in its schlockiness, and you do get some story within there, and like people getting interviewed in those moments that make you go like, are they a liar? Are they crazy? What's going on? Is it real? So that's all technically in there.
Yeah, I mean, I basically agree. This is like, this sort of draws the distinction line for me about this stuff. Like, I don't think I would ever pay money for any of this stuff. Right? Like,
I thought would be top on your shelf already, Tim.
No, it's like that's why it's a guilty pleasure. Like, I would never step into actually like putting money into it. It's all the way up to that line. Like, I'll consume a lot of it for free, but I don't think I would ever.
You wouldn't pay 25 cents an episode for Ghost Adventures?
No, I wouldn't.
Because it would add up, because as soon as you did one, you'd have to...
There's 19 fucking seasons.
I know.
I'd be like $20. No, it'd be more than that, but whatever. No, I would stream this.
Okay.
It's firmly in that wheelhouse for me. It's a thing that I'll consume for free.
Got it. But a solid stream it nonetheless.
I'll tell you what I would pay for is to go ghost hunting. Like, I would pay to do that in person. But, like, you know, to watch it? Nah, fuck no.
My cousin and her husband are amateur ghost hunters in their spare time. They're actually called the Northwest Amateur Paranormal Society, something like that.
NWAPS.
Yeah, no, it's not that. It'd be maybe just naps because this, Northwest is one word, I think. Mm-hmm. But they go along the West Coast.
Oh man,
cases.
We gotta go visit them.
I know. Well, they've always been talking about for years coming down to California, so we'll join them. Hopefully, they'll let me know.
So, what's next? So we're streams.
Yep. So next is the summary.
Oh my god. You probably know the background better than...
Yeah, but that's not the film necessarily.
That's true. The film is Zak Bagans claims that he had a dream once.
Yep.
With a goat man in it. 12-foot demon goat man.
A week before I first heard of this case, I had a dream.
Yeah, and then so he buys the house, as you heard in the trailer, sight unseen.
Sight unseen.
And then they spent like a while filming this.
Yeah, it's over the course of years, I think.
Yeah, it's at least a year, if not a couple years. So they go to the house and they try to interview people who like the previous owners, who the story, sort of the newspaper article was about the kids kind of being possessed, or one kid being possessed.
Yeah,
right?
it's okay. So it's LaToya Ammons, and she's a single mother and her 3 kids. And so the possession demon story, it is about the 3 kids, actually, where first there's this weird stuff happening in the house and like a few instances and the kids getting thrown around and such. And then it's after they do an exorcism cleaning or something where things are okay for 3 days. And then that's when what is he? Then shit gets real. He actually says that in the movie.
Of course he does.
Yeah.
So then we, kind of go down following him around to try and get more information. So there's interviews with people who are sort of involved, like the caseworkers and the priest and the cops.
Right. Those are our key players. We have the Department of Child Services family case manager, Valerie Washington, who fled the room. The sort of the big instance that or one of the big accounts that this film always comes back to, and it's beautiful reenactments with reenactment actors keep showing over and over, is an instance where it was a bunch of sort of people who were, state official type people in the room at a hospital.
A psychiatrist and the
case manager I just mentioned.
The case manager, at least those 3 adults are in the room. And then the mom probably too is there.
And the grandma. And it was basically the instance where this kid, his voice changed, they all said, his eyes rolled back in his head. He, what was it? He
walked backwards up the wall.
Exactly. Right after sort of, I think, getting thrown back by nothing.
Oh, yeah.
He then walks upwards against the wall and then jumps down and lands on his 2 feet.
Yeah.
And so then we have, interviews with this case manager saying, she ran out of the room after that. It was a big traumatic experience for her. Yada, yada, yada. But there's the intrigue, is that you have those people went from saying, oh, this is a case of this mother who's created a sort of psychosis that these kids are playing into, and we need to separate them, all of a sudden to not being able to confidently say that that's all it is anymore.
Yeah. And then there's this sort of unfortunate caveat of that family refuses to be interviewed.
Oh, yeah, except for... No, LaToya's in it, though. Or are those his previous interviews with her that we see?
No, we never see LaToya.
Who is it? No, she's the woman with the dyed hair.
That's Rosa, her mom.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we never actually meet LaToya or her 3 kids.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
We meet her mom, LaToya's mom, Rosa.
Right.
She's the one who sort of tells a lot of that
I was
stuff.
confused,
And then it gets even more confusing because then we also meet the previous occupants of the house, like a woman who had grown up in the house.
Okay.
And she happens to also have 3 kids who are presumably around the same-ish age as LaToya's kids. So it becomes very convoluted about like who's who at a certain point. But regardless...
And that's kind of where Zak Bagans' filmmaking fails me a bit.
But all in all, so all of this is to say that this is all, you know, documentary interviewing sort of, and, you know, the, what are they called? The reenactment bullshit. Leading up to Zach saying, I'm going to lock myself in this house, board it up, and, like, literally, like, have it...
Why does he have to put a...
I don't know. But he's going to do that and stay over there at night by himself.
Yep.
And then we see that.
That's the big ending.
And that's the ending.
Camera goes out of focus and something blurry runs by it. He's yelling at it. He gets an extreme pain in his eyes, and now, for the rest of his life, has to wear these corrective glasses.
Yeah. That's the movie.
Mm-hmm. We get a punk horror fan cameraman who...
Oh, yeah.
That's sort of a middle section is when we're at the hotel, and he's like screaming.
He has a flip out.
He's at the hotel and says he sees like the goat man standing in the elevator, and he didn't think any of this was real until that moment.
Right.
And he said that the goat man wants to get you, Zach.
Right. So...
That's
why there's a goat man head on the poster.
Yeah. And doesn't Zach hear the goat like in...
Yeah, right before the camera goes out of focus, I think.
And we go, oh, it's a goat.
It's a goat.
The basement is a big part of it.
Mm-hmm.
They always go, that's where the weird stuff happens. Oh, and then I think just the last thing to mention that's like it focuses on is how you have like 5 or more people who all get, you know, severe to extremely severe injuries or accidents, who have visited this place,
or illnesses.
Yeah, including like one, the sort of the guy who investigated the Entity case, the film The Entity. He's like some famous scientist, or you know, within that world, famous scientist, and he said he never thought this would happen to him, kind of thing. You know, and we want to believe it because it's like, they'd have to be really good actors. Is the thing that gets me.
He seems the most quote unquote credible of anybody in this thing, but you know, take that for what it is.
Well, as I don't know, we're still in the summary here, but as I think the reporter who wrote the extensive article that made it goes famous says, I believe they believe this happened.
Okay.
You know, that's where
Fair
I
enough.
fall back on a lot. And then I want to say for things of note, Tim, if we can go down a list of the implications of it being faked. Basically, so if we want to presume this was all faked, what would that actually mean?
Right.
You know, they would have had to have pulled off or whatever. Or what was going on.
I can get
how
into that.
reality looked. Okay. Should we officially move into what worked?
Yeah.
What worked for you? What worked for you?
It worked like a charm, Smith.
What worked? What worked for you?
Well,
so I mean, honestly, the biggest thing that works for me is there's the 2 sequences that are sort of back to back, like you said, in the middle, are that scientist guy, and that is followed by the cameraman having his flip out. Regardless of whether or not it's real or faked or whatever acted, it's effective. Like, both of those storylines and the way they're depicted are very eerie and creepy to me, and like unsettling. It makes you go, "Ooh, fuck!"
Yeah, because
if this is real, it's freaky.
There's something about involving the authority figures of a priest.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I mean, it's like,
regardless of your feelings of organized religion, it is they don't have reason to perpetuate the exorcism rites.
Well,
you know, I mean
everybody,
I guess that's saying it
everybody's
out
got a
loud,
reason
yeah.
if you give them money.
Right.
So
but
that,
they
to
don't
me,
have money. LaToya, I mean, they wouldn't have...
Oh, you mean in the original case?
Yeah.
I see. Yeah, that's true. But, I mean, I think the depiction of the science guy and, like, his sort of groundedness and then his whatever you call it, falling apart, kind of feeling sick and all that. It's like, I could see that. There's so much correlation without causality. Is that the way it would be? Yes, they're correlating things without, you know, and thinking that it's caused by ghosts. And it's like, dude, it could be fucking anything. It could be just fucking the house is old and shitty and dank and like,
right.
You know, you're down in the basement and it's fucking what the air sucks.
Here's the perfect example is when he says, you know, they're investigating a demon house and then he says, these weird things happen, blah, blah, blah. And that night I had a dream about this demon. It's like, well,
right. It's like,
I had a dream actually last night where I was like investigating paranormal places.
It's like,
and
bro,
I think it's because
you do, Zach, is fucking come up with ideas for this show. And so the idea that it's out of the realm of like normal whatever to have a dream about a demon. It's like, yeah, no shit. I mean, I had a dream last night about that had 3 different girls that I've dated, none of which in the last 2 decades. Like, why? I don't fucking know. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything, right? It doesn't mean, maybe I should go call, like, fucking...
Okay, well, I gotta play devil's advocate here, Tim.
Okay.
Is that we don't know because it could mean something. There's always the possibility. That's what he's playing off of.
And that is what makes these shows, right?
Yeah.
And that's this whole construct that it's based on that idea.
Yeah.
It's like, it's probably not real, but what if it is? It still kind of exists.
Okay.
It's the unexplainable. That's really what they're getting. And so to me, the second one with this cameraman, maybe that's we should have looked this up, but I'd like to see who that guy is. And if he's an actor, because he gives a pretty good performance. And it's unsettling. Like, I think what it is ultimately is, regardless of anything, watching somebody flip out is unsettling. And like the aggressive sort of flip out.
Right.
It's like anytime you're fucking out and about and you see somebody who's really fucked up, like whether they're doing drugs or drunk or whatever, like it's scary to be around because they're completely unpredictable.
Well, yeah, when that cameraman's flipping out and we see Zach and the other cameraman reacting, you said like, oh, they're really upset, or like they're actually...
If they're acting, they're selling that they are unsettled and like... freaked out by this really well.
And that's the thing that gets... Okay, here's what works for me is like Zak Bagans, his appeal, he's like seems so phony, yet simultaneously seems to be so authentically him, which to me in a nutshell is this ghost investigation stuff.
He's able to bridge a thing that I think is really interesting, and I think it's why there's a broad appeal. He is a dork.
Yeah.
In actuality, and outwardly he'll talk about it, where he'll talk about getting emotional and like having like weird feelings, or like he's very open in a way that like is not masculine, not like quintessential like tough guy masculine, but he's inside this image of the tough guy.
Right, his like skeleton glove,
which is sort of, it's sort of a existing, I guess, just trope in the world. It's like the sensitive motorcycle guy or whatever, you know what I mean?
Feeling this way, or when he's coming out about how he feels, and then with the exact same tonality, is talking about how I flipped out and started yelling at my cameraman. You know,
Right.
it's this it blurs the line.
But this is an archetype that's really, really popular in culture. It's Don Draper, right? It's Charlie Hunnam in Sons of Anarchy. It's the tough exterior, sensitive inside guy who's kind of always conflicted.
Yeah.
That's who he's presenting. It may be who he is, but there is a fucking broad appeal to that for some reason.
And just because I almost lost the thought, wanted to say when you're talking about how he was reacting to things and like trying to isolate again the appeal in that all. So what gets me is if he's actually acting and performing, that seems like that would suggest he's more talented than his filmmaking suggests.
Agreed. So I would say he is not acting.
So there's an intrigue in that disparity. Like it's inherently sort of makes you want to believe him. Like it's
yeah. I mean, it's
a lot.
who he is. I think it's just that's the persona that he has formed over the years.
Yeah.
You know, because they started this thing in like 2003 or something like that. I think that's about it because they had a documentary film was what broke them. They went to the Washoe Hotel. I think it's Washoe or something like that. I don't remember. It's in Utah or Colorado or somewhere. And they just broke in and filmed shit. And the big sort of like, holy fuck, and why the movie got, you know, some attention was because there's a couple scenes where shit like a brick literally flies through the air.
So I sent it to you, but Red Letter Media reviews Demon House, and the host Mike, like he's kind of like you, goes off on his guilty pleasure love for this stuff.
Yeah.
And I saw the clips of the brick being thrown.
Right. And so like for all anybody knows, that first documentary was also a hoax. And they've just been riding, that's how they do it. And that's, you know, it's TV, so fucking whatever, I guess.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we're into it. But ultimately, they've spent you know, whatever that is, 15, 18, 16 years, something like that, doing this thing. So yeah, he's really cultivated this, this persona.
Yeah. So something else that says, I'm trying to isolate like what... Oh, yeah. But before I say that, this is, I thought, was a good example, like that style, still trying to break down its style. We gave example of what they do when the guy says, let me in or whatever. This, when we were talking about society, how we differ in our appreciation of camp. I think this is camp that you can and do appreciate.
Sure. But yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, but
it's such a specific kind of camp where it's just so dumb.
Right, because they're more sincere in it. It's not like Society where it's like, oh, this is fun, but we know it's stupid.
Yeah.
They actually are being serious, but it's just so hokey.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing to try and put your finger on. Because like I said, I almost wonder... Would we feel like we're losing something if it didn't have any of those stylistic choices of, you know, whatever you want to call it, the effects and stingers and sound effects and whatever? I think personally I would like it more, but maybe not.
As far as like the commercial break audience, you know?
Right. Well, yeah. So
I don't know.
Outside of that, here's a couple things that I think are working just for the actual story. This recurring sort of idea that somebody slept or multiple people would sleep in this basement room is really unsettling to me. And I think it's just because basements are inherently creepy and dark and underground. And all of that works. I actually wish they had kind of explored that room more.
Yeah, that I think got at what was that's representative of what was one of the more interesting sort of ideas that he introduces. And I think, you know, a lot of people living together in a house of squalor, including having to live in this, you know, asbestos-ridden basement, gets at. He mentions, you know, this is poverty-stricken America. This is representative of America as a whole. This town, Gary, Indiana, and it's what works as far as the story of like it's evil getting isolated to this location because of that. It reminded me of Ghostbusters 2. The story was very Ghostbusters 2. Yeah. And that I think appeals like where we can't see, I mean, you can see it manifested like the fear and quote unquote evil of just squalor and how the world allows this to exist. Yeah. So to have it manifested in something isolated, I think on some level like rings true to us because it's because we feel it and we know it's real in a way we can't really, you know, put, you know what I mean?
Well, I think that there's a broader thematic sort of reality, cultural reality to this type of outlook. It's kind of why we create stories to make sense of the things that either are good or shitty in our lives. Like that's largely how lore and folklore comes about, right? So in a way it feels, and I think that we could discuss the negative side of this as well. But I think part of what's happening and part of the appeal, I guess, for the storyteller or the story creator is to justify in a way why you're in poverty. It's almost a validation of this is not a great environment. And if you can explain that, then it makes it a little bit more okay. So in this particular example, you know, if you're fairly hyper-religious and, you know, believe in God and the devil, and you live in poverty, saying that the bad things that are happening in your life are caused by the devil, and in a more magnified way in this particular household, you know, it's a portal to hell. It's almost like a metaphor for your life. You're saying like, my life is not great. Like we live in shitty conditions and people don't have jobs, and it's almost a way to provide an explanation for the shittiness,
which is exactly what the social service people, why they separated the kids from the mother for like half a year or whatever, was because they just say that that's what she was doing, is sort of using her religious beliefs to justify, you know, a manifestation of unhealthy whatever. But I don't know. I don't know, to bring it back to Ghostbusters 2, I feel like it's for me, this kind of story, aside from like what I just said, I think leans much more the direction of it's what's already there causing this demon presence.
But that's kind of my point. It's like by saying that you're skirting reality. You're using a supernatural explanation for all of the woes, you know what I mean? And it's been around forever. I mean, the metaphor sort of carries on.
But I'm saying, but the ordering of it is, okay, we're in a bad situation here. This is a horrible place we live. It's been this way for years. And then all of a sudden, this happens.
Yeah.
It's not like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's impossible to dissect without kind of all the information in a way.
Well, I'd be more,
And this is a story trope in horror films that's been around forever. It's I think The Haunting in Connecticut does this, where it's like that whole movie, I think it's that one, is a metaphor for child abuse. Mm-hmm. And like the haunting is revealed to be not a haunting at all. It's sort of the world, I think, I'm remembering this one right, but is the world that we've seen and the stories that of like scary shit happening is all in the mind of the kid who's been abused as a way to sort of compartmentalize her or his, I don't have to, this is a long time ago, but her abuse, let's say it's a girl. And that type of storytelling has been around for a long time. And I think that this is falling kind of into the same category, even just on its sort of broad stroke surface. And that's fine. I think that's actually cool. It's never really explored in any sort of direct way in this movie. But I think that the sense of that exists within this movie.
Right.
And it's cool.
All right, I want to clarify a reference point here, Tim, of who's talking to us, because you started the show referring to a previous time when you said you have seen a ghost. So
that's true.
What does that mean to you?
It doesn't mean anything because I don't know what the fuck it was.
Okay, yeah, I'm saying
I can't explain it.
But great. So what is that? Had that not happened, did that happening affect how you watch this stuff at all?
No, not at all. That's why I find it actually quite strange, is because it had I always thought that if I were to experience something, that I would be sort of forever changed by that experience. And in this particular case, I just was like, I don't know.
So that
I saw a
you
thing.
basically went from an open-minded person to an open-minded person.
Yeah, I guess.
Which means you're, and again, how we've talked about this before, I think open-minded people are the biggest skeptics there are.
Sure.
Because you're being skeptical to all beliefs, not just what you want to believe and not believe.
Correct. So I can still say, even though I saw what I saw, like my brain translated the light that I was seeing into a thing, I can still say that might be my brain misfiring, and say it was just light play. Like, that's certainly in the realm of possibility. It's fucking crazy that if that's true.
See, that's the thing, and we're going to get into in the things of note. That seems more crazy to me than actually something going on that just our science can't explain yet.
Sure. Yeah, so I'm kind of just neutral still about it. I'm like, yeah, I saw that thing. It's kind of cool.
Yeah. It's like, do you remember the early South Park episode, Korn's Spooky Pirate Ghost Mystery? Oh, yeah, you don't like South Park.
I just never watch it.
It's a Scooby-Doo spoof.
Oh, yeah.
Where, like, Korn,
I love
the band.
Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I like ghost shit.
Yeah, because
I grew up watching Scooby-Doo.
It's always the twist at the end. But they're, like, showing how they did each of the things. And they're like, how they faked this Scooby-Doo ghost. Mm-hmm. And they're like, and with this flashlight and this gerbil, I forget what it is, but just like an object or a tiny animal and a flashlight and like a twig,
mm-hmm.
and they shine the flashlight on it, and all of a sudden it's just this like fully formed apparition person. Yeah. It's like, that's what that sounds like to me when you say it was just my brain processing light a certain way, because what you saw was too specific.
It was very specific. So it's like, well, if that's the case, I don't know.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, to the Scooby-Doo reference, I actually saw a meme yesterday that I was like, yeah, that's true. And it was like, Scooby-Doo taught us that the monster is always a human. Mm-hmm. It's always Mr. fucking so-and-so. And actuality.
That was what always let me down about Scooby-Doo.
The worst, monsters out there.
Like, I was always hoping that I wanted the kids.
Right.
They're like the Scooby-Doo movies, not the live action ones, but like the extended cartoons. I think,
with Scrappy and those usually actually had ghosts.
I like those.
Yeah. So where are we?
I liked it's funny what hooks you is that at this kind of, sounds mean to say stupid level, but like whatever level this is operating on.
Lowbrow.
Thank you. Which, I love, but in this case, I think, and again, and when it's talking about delivering a story, I'm not as crazy about. But in its own lowbrow way, it does try to address any like immediate skepticism towards bigger things. So it's like when we see something across the camera and we immediately go, that just looks like a finger over it. Sure. What are we talking about? It's like, we brought in our expert. And then the first thing he says, well, this doesn't, I can say for sure this isn't a finger over the camera because, they operate at that very baseline level, which keeps you just in it enough.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, all of that, the devices that have become commonplace in these shows, like the expert showing up and, you know, like I still, every time they go, oh, an orb, I'm like, get the fuck out of here with your orbs. Like people.
But when we were watching it,
I'm like there's
in
an
the
orb.
end, you go, oh, there's an orb.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, because I'm expecting them to be like, see that orb? So it's almost like playing off of their excitement. I'm like, you know, it's the same reason where I'm like, it's a goat. Because they've laid the groundwork for that shit. You're expecting them to yell about it. And that's what's sort of amusing to me and like fun about it is that they're in a way, they're having fun. Like in their extreme way, yelling and being scared or whatever. Because I think you're right. It's like in a way, I think they, regardless of the reality, they are buying in a really intense way.
So it seems.
So I don't know if they believe what they're saying is legit or if they just are really enjoying the ride.
Right. And sometimes that's made just so like, okay, if we're seeing the security footage of Zak like freaking out and yelling at the other cameraman and then he says like, I don't know what happened. You know, that's more than just him kind of just kind of telling half-truths. That's a full commitment thing to do. So that's...
Yes.
I don't know. Something about what you just said made me want to...
Well, and this is sort of I think what you're getting at in things of note is like, can we pick that apart and be like, if you're gonna fake that, what are the steps that you take to make that
that's what
happen?
I want to talk about then.
And I think that's a really interesting conversation to have. So what else do you have there?
Specifics that just tickled me so hard were when he's first talking about like this goat, how it's a goat demon thing.
Yeah.
And he says, that's when so-and-so called me and told me it was an 8 out of 10 on the demon scale or whatever that scale was. And it's like...
It is the
why not just make it a 10 out of 10?
The absurdity to everybody in his world's conviction, you know, of like, we know there's at least 200 demons in there. It's like, it's such fucking conjecture. You know, it's like, we brought in this expert, you know, a clairvoyant, and they said for sure there's 200 demon entities there. It's like, what?
So I want to play devil's advocate to that, but when we get to, ironically, what did not work.
Okay. Fair enough. But I think that there's something endearing about that aspect of the buy-in.
Yeah.
You know, they're so unwavering about their conviction.
I mean, we've already mentioned there's this slew of kind of side characters, the police department, Captain Charles Austin, Valerie Washington, the case manager, Father Mike Maginot, I don't know. But anyway, this trio of people, I mean, I do get in it and love about it is like, I have no reason to this police captain of however many years when I'm just sort of thinking, okay, where's his interest in faking this all? You know, he seems... I don't know. You're snickering. But
there's always this element with this type of thing of like, especially in a small town.
Okay.
Think about how fucking exciting it would be to be in a movie.
I could see him getting involved in that inadvertently out of a certain gullibility on his part. But he didn't strike me as someone who's malicious or...
No, I don't think that. I think it's exciting to be a part of this type of thing. That, you know, the Hollywood dudes show up and... But
here, all of this happened way before any documentary or story broke.
Fuck, yeah, that's true.
He went in just trying to help these people and, like, didn't want any of it. And then said, saw weird stuff going on in this house. Like, I don't know if it was him, but we had a couple police... This is what got me. There's a couple police officers during one of the main exorcisms there standing by. And no wonder, like, Blumhouse or whoever would want the story rights to this. That's incredible to have these, like, local cops taking part in, like, okay, we're still doing our duty as cops, but what we're doing here is we're standing by to hold this 12-year-old down when they become too violent.
Yeah. Yeah, it's at minimum really fascinating.
That's what I'm saying. What worked for me,
susceptibility. So if you just said it's all bullshit, let's just say, in a world where it's all bullshit, all of these people that you're referring to, the suggestibility of this potentially being legit or real is so strong for them. Like, they're so suggestible as just humans. And that idea, I think, is sort of why I think we like this stuff, is because given your level of suggestibility, but it's the same, that personality trait or whatever, suggestibility thing, it's a super slippery slope. That was really hard to say just now.
Slippery slope.
Because the suggestibility factor can fall very, very quickly into complete insane conspiracy theory.
Mm-hmm.
And people who are susceptible to suggestibility on that scale, the more suggestible you are, the more you're willing to buy into like completely irrational conspiracy shit.
I wonder.
And so, I think there's play in that. And, we don't know the reality, but they might have asked 10 different cops that were in some way involved in this case originally. And this guy's the one who is more suggestible and was like, yeah, I'll tell my version of this. And his version is based on his suggestibility.
Right. But
in the first place.
That's a good example. But as far as this case specifically, this you hear her talk about it, like when she's interviewed, the reporter who wrote this lengthy expose, she's like, the news reporter kept saying to her, like, well, what do you think? But what do you think? And all she said is, all I'm doing is presenting the facts as I found them and leaving to decide whatever they want on their own.
Yeah.
So anyway, how it's written, she was mentioning anything that could give us doubt. So she would have said, these other 9 officers all said this, though.
I see. That's interesting. Yeah. I think it's a cool exploration in like folklore and how, whether this is people in a small town are more prone to buy into folklore or not. I don't know if that's the case, but there seems to be a little bit of, a suggestion of that, at least in this particular case.
It's a very prescient story. And I think in our world of the shrinking middle class, wealth disparity and racism a lot too.
Yeah,
you
definitely.
could write a good college paper on this film.
Yeah.
With all that in mind.
So, yeah, in a way, to me, ultimately, all of that stuff kind of works for setting the tone of this overall story.
I think in the end, maybe what I enjoyed most about this is just looking at it as a documentary on Zak Bagans, like a personal documentary, albeit, but it's this sort of this snake eating its tail when it sees the filmmaker, when how the film is being presented is saying something about him, which I kind of already touched on earlier, but
I think it's very telling the fact that this took so long to make. You know what I mean?
Says,
like,
because it was cursed.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But that's, again, that's correlation without causality. Is that the way you say that?
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like I always do it backwards.
Should we move on?
I want to ask you a question. Did it work for you every time Zak walks alone and has a voiceover?
I think that I could put in it works and didn't work for me.
Man, because it really works for me.
I mean, I think that as what I just said about this being like Zak making a film starring himself, it just becomes kind of both fascinating and entertaining in a certain way.
There's something.
But then at the same time, I'm like, dude, come on.
Exactly. Exactly.
Should we get into that more dude come on side of things?
Yes.
Okay. What did not work?
It's not ready yet.
Seems to work okay.
No, something important's missing.
What did not work?
I mean, I already mentioned in my overview at the beginning when rating it how it just doesn't engage me on the investigative level that I like. So that was there, you know.
It doesn't.
So, okay. So I guess we're going to talk about in big terms, or dissect the style of it and what that's doing. But I think what I want to say most about that right now is, well, okay, it's obviously manipulative.
Totally.
Yet it's not for who we are as an audience. It just puts us. This is my main thing that doesn't work for me about this thing as a whole. Is like, we as viewers, we know better than this style at this point. Like, yeah, we're also still connected to just being able to be entertained by it in the trashiest of television ways. But I think this is the problem. Like, this style is what perpetuates people not taking seriously what is the currently unexplainable. Yeah,
even like the disclaimer at the beginning, it's actually a disservice to the movie.
Yeah,
I think. It's like, what I forget exactly what it says, but it's sort of just too on the nose.
Yeah. We talked about this before, and you may have guessed, but like, I asked Tim where he was at and seeing a ghost and stuff like that. So where I'm at is, I think there is a middle ground that people are, for some reason, don't see or adverse to. That you don't have to say, I believe in ghosts, or I don't believe in ghosts. Right. Whatever the hell that means. First of all, I think it's presumptuous to assume you know what that means at all when you say one direction or the other.
Definitely.
That's where I stand. And then I think it's like, what's crazy to me is to think we live in a world where we have science is far enough that we can explain everything about the universe and reality.
Wait, say that again?
What's crazier to me than thinking than the idea of, I guess, quote unquote ghost is thinking that
that
science has reached its end all in where science is going to go.
That's super crazy to think.
Right. So I say I'm open to believing in anything, really.
Yeah.
And I think that's a middle ground that people sort of are afraid to be in. I don't know. But that's where I'm coming from.
Well, yeah, everybody wants to be able to say, I know what a thing is.
Yeah.
I mean, we do it with each other all the time, right? You know people, and you decide that they're a certain way, and that's just a mechanism to feel confident about your surroundings,
well,
right?
This is, again, I think what's scary about all this is there's the inherent paradox of this.
Right.
Tim, like, first meeting you, there are truths about how you make me feel that are truths. But that doesn't mean what you just said isn't also true.
Exactly. Yeah. So.
I think that's my biggest problem with this style, is that if we're ever going to like further the discussion scientifically, like, this is what I referred to earlier, what I want to talk about this in this section, when you were like, you have this cast of characters who are these, outside scientists and stuff, and people who are super into this, enthusiastic, when I brought up how it's an 8 out of 10 on the demon scale.
Yeah.
Like, okay, but if there was something to this, how else would those people look? It's our preconceptions that are making them like actually be crazy. Like, if their viewpoint themselves is that they're just interested in this topic, they're open to believing it, or maybe as far as, do believe in something.
That's why I think that the science guy is sort of the one that I feel the most sort of like intrigue about, is because he's one of the only people in the entire movie who sort of says, look, man, I don't know what this shit is. It's weird. Like, this stuff happening is pretty unusual and weird, and I'm basing it off of data, and it's freaky.
Well, I guess
he gets caught up in it too. He starts saying like, once his organs start failing, he starts buying the causality like line of thought, and it's like, dude, sometimes.
Well, it seems like the possibility is then there for him, and that's what starts to question he starts to question his reality. I guess what I'm trying to say, and it's still hard to say, is like the fact there's no other way that these people could exist and be accepted by people who don't accept them.
Whoa. I'm not sure I understood that. There's no other way in...
These people either exist or they don't. And in the eyes of people who think they're stupid or ridiculous or crazy, there's no possibility for them not thinking they're stupid, ridiculous, and crazy. Like,
sure.
That just frustrates me. Like, when you...
I get what you're saying.
You know?
Yeah, it's a foregone conclusion.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what frustrates me about this.
But there are things in this movie that make... that the filmmakers do that undercut our ability to buy in.
Exactly.
And that's a huge fucking problem.
That's what I'm...
Here's a really overt example. There is footage, as far as we're told, there's police footage that when CPS went back to look through the house, they filmed on, a camcorder or an iPhone or whatever, because it was...
2011.
Sure, 2011. So those things existed? Yeah. In that footage that we're being shown, they added in post, the filmmakers added in post, a filter to make it look like it's old film footage. They added like a little line on the left side,
right,
as if it were grainy film. And it's like, dude, what are you doing?
I think what we're ready for and what I want and why this is all this that we've been saying so far in this section is coming from how it's a disservice to, I think, people's intelligence.
Yes.
To embrace this style so hard. And I think we're ready for what I want to see is like legit, what do you call it? Prestige TV, HBO style.
Yeah.
Like, the Jinxed style documentary on this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, like people who are not... It's always hard to get for I think me and I think a lot of people to get behind the person who has bought in fully. Mm-hmm. Like and they've done an okay job at times with saying, hey, maybe the way we see it isn't the reality or whatever, or they'll call out things that get debunked. Like I said earlier, you hear the ice machine. They could, and this is such a, it's a semi-tangent. There was a show called Ghost Mine, like M-I-N-E.
Okay.
Meaning like a gold mine that was haunted, and it was on Discovery, and I was really into it. This is like
all about this one mine.
One mine, yeah. So some guy bought the mine to see if maybe they could get in there and find gold again. And the premise of the show is that the reason that mine has gone untouched for so long is because of all of the lore about it being haunted, that nobody wanted to buy it for like the last 70 years or whatever. So it's in real disrepair, and deaths had happened like in any mine, and that it's been haunted and people don't want to deal with it. So some young dude who had a bunch of money bought it up, and then also hired this paranormal investigative crew to get in there with them at the same time to see if it's also haunted, because that's, I don't know, what he thought would be cool to do. In that show, in one of the episodes, you see they cut to a shot. They find little trinkets and shit, and I actually thought most of the show was pretty well done and fun. But at a certain point, there is a shot of a guy stepping next to a fucking human skull in the mine. And then it was in like one of the promos, or in like the coming up on this, like a pre-commercial break. They show that shot, and I was like, oh shit. Like, they found a human skull. That's pretty sweet. It's never addressed in the show. And I immediately... this is like the first time I ever used Twitter. I like got on Twitter, took a screen grab of that frame of the show with the skull in it, and sent it to the host of the show, the guy who's like the lead investigator, and was like, yo, what is, like, you guys are just going to ignore the fact that there's a skull in this shot? What the hell? And he responded. And he was like, his response was super lame. It was like, oh yeah, you know, a lot of stuff goes on when we're filming these shows, and you can't not all of it makes it into the episode. I'm like, bro, this is the episode. If you found a skull, that's the episode.
Right. So you're like, yes, I know that, but that's why I'm asking you what it is.
Right. And like a bunch of people, you know, started a conversation on Twitter about like how fucking stupid and bullshit it is, his response. And like, you know, so this is all to say that these shows often set themselves up to belie the fact that that there could be interesting factual things happening then why have the fucking frame of the show in the promo part? Like, you know, it's gonna fucking, because you think it's exciting and then you never address.
What are you getting at here with this show?
I'm getting at any of these devices, like the film filter thing, it undercuts the credibility of the show. And it's like, you already know that this isn't, like, people are going to come into this skeptical and thinking it's bullshit.
Yeah.
And you're actively doing a thing that is going to fan the flame of skepticism.
Whether it's the hokey reenactments, the music.
Exactly.
All that stuff.
Like, stop doing that version of the show.
But that's who Zak is, which is the fascinating thing about this all.
Well, it makes me wonder, like, actually, this confirms that this is who Zak is, rather than that the Travel Channel, who hosted Ghost Adventures, was the driving force of the tonality of the show. It's like, no, actually, no, this is, because it says right on the fucking trailer and the poster, a Zak Bagans film.
Yep, and it is.
So all of that, to me, that's the big problem. It doesn't work. And it actually, having the fucking climax of the movie be a camera going out of focus and having a shadow thing flip behind it, all that says to me is nothing happened and we have to come up with a way to make something seem like it happened. So how do we do that without, you know,
right? It's not like we see Zak in the same shot too. It could have just been him going by.
Yeah.
Could have been anything.
Exactly.
I know, that was the most convenient thing that was just too much for me. Like, that's the annoying thing about this stuff.
All of them suffer from this. It is always so anticlimactic.
Yeah.
You know, they build up to this thing, and then the thing is like,
so then don't
whatever.
Stop trying to adhere to this structure.
Yes.
Like, there's other interesting stuff about this to delve into. It doesn't have to be this, here are all the clues, but then, but wait, and then fake a big climax that's not even there.
Yeah. It sucks.
Start the movie with that stuff. I don't know. This is an extreme
There's got to be a better way to do this stuff. I mean, because here's the thing: what it makes me want to do as a filmmaker is make a movie that is playing off of the trope of the guy who is a hoaxer.
Or just, how about just the trope of the style? I think we should do a documentary like using Zak Bagans' style, you know, even indirectly, him as a jumping off point.
But I want to take that one step further and then have the fourth wall of the world that Zak is creating, we get to see behind that.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
I'd like to be like, when they turn the cameras off, the characters that exist outside of the performance, I want to see them.
Right.
And see, like, what their deal is.
Which doing reenactments is the opposite.
Ugh. I fucking hate reenactments.
They're so hokey in this one, too. And he keeps showing it, like...
Yeah, how many times did we see that kid crawl up the wall?
He just owns it so much, though. Like, okay, I mean, this is a way to put everything we've just said is that he doesn't do anything to gain our trust. Like, as you said, he's only doing stuff to doubt it. Like, that's what you'd want to do just as a filmmaker. Like, he does the little things, as I said, where it's like, has the person come on who lets us know, is an expert on letting us know if it's a finger or not on the front of the camera.
It's the same thing. That's not the same thing. It's the same thing as Chris magician Chris Angel. Yeah. It's the same thing. These dudes believe that they have to live inside of their conviction so fully.
Yeah.
That that's the only way to exist.
Yeah, he never bothers saying like, here's where I'm at with all this stuff.
Exactly.
He just is just going.
Again, it's a foregone conclusion that he knows all and like is fully in.
Or not. We don't know.
That's true. He doesn't say it. I'm making that assumption, I guess. Yeah. Fuck. But don't you want to see a version of this type of thing where it's somebody being like, look, man, we don't fucking know what's going on.
Yeah.
But we're going to do everything we can to just present you with our experience.
He just seems so uninterested in that. That's what's so fascinating.
Yeah.
Like kind of what I said, I wanted to know more about the story. I wish this film got into more about like the backstory of this house specifically. When was it built? What lived here before? Anything that could just
none of that.
Give us an ability to make our own jumps and conclusions as to just like, even though we're ragging on that, that's what's sort of fun too, is like give us just the facts about more things.
Yeah, there's something to be said about weaving the tale of the history.
Yeah.
And actually a lot of the Ghost Adventures stuff goes into like the actual historical stuff.
Right.
And yet in the movie version, we're not getting almost any of it. It's just,
well, Tim, you know, there's a lot that we can't fit in the film. That's how it goes. I wanted to know more about his decision to destroy the house too. Like I've seen clips of him after the fact talking about it, and it's kind of obvious. But in the film, it just kind of played. It was funny. It's just like all of a sudden, there it is getting destroyed. Like I never felt like yeah, I guess it should be a given that if we buy he's having extreme eye pain and has to have serious corrective surgery because of it and almost went blind, that's reason enough for him to want to destroy it. But it was
again,
this kind of this
correlation without like doesn't imply causation causality, right? Like
it still felt like a leap to all of a sudden him destroying it somehow.
Maybe walking around in the dark for the last 16 years and trying to focus on things and having a fucking LED screen, a tiny little green LED screen in front of your face fucked your eyes up.
Or how about, could we at least address...
It's Occam's razor. It's so much more likely that it's something like that than a fucking demon.
Could we... But Tim, 5 other people had things happen to them entered this house.
Dude, I mean, I could go just do a random survey of people on the street and we could find a correlation.
Here's the thing. There's a friend of mine made a film, nothing to do with paranormal or ghosts. It's just a film about how this woman had crazy, almost freak accidents happen to people around her. Yet, but there's still crazy coincidence like within there. You know, I don't know.
Yes.
God, what am I trying to say?
Well,
it's like
it's the story narrative that we are trying to make sense of things all the time. And so when we see patterns, we are way more prone to be like, hey, there's a pattern. It's just scientifically, it's bad science to correlate those things. I got rear-ended driving twice in the last 8 months, right? Like you could be like, if it happened a third time, it's like, oh, well, then there's a pattern. It's a thing. It's like, no, I just drive a lot.
But that is a correlation then.
It is, but it's not a correlation so much as it's a probability.
But I don't think that right. It's a probability, but we know, I'm pretty sure in the scientific method, that's not enough to base something on.
No.
Like if you and I can agree on 2 accidents have happened to you because you're driving all the time, we're like, oh yeah. But what's frustrating is then we can't use that as proof. It's weird. Like
it's obviously
that's why.
That's the probability. It's like if you're going to stand outside more, then it's more likely that you'll get hit by lightning. Right? Like that's just probability.
But then what those cases where someone gets hit by lightning twice?
Like 2 of my professors.
Really?
I knew 3 people in my college who had been hit by lightning.
No way!
2 of them had been hit twice.
No way!
Now, granted, it's more likely to get hit a second time once you've been hit.
Really?
First time. Yeah.
Why?
I don't know.
But those odds are crazy.
No, the odds go up once you've been hit once.
No way.
Yeah. It's the same.
Just as far as, based on cases of lightning strikes?
I don't know. I think it's based on probabilities.
The probability of instances that we've had of people getting struck by lightning.
Maybe.
Because you think it would go up to like
it's more
a
likely,
billion to 1.
You're more likely to win the lottery if you only buy 2 tickets than if you buy like 1,000. Your probability of getting the right number goes down.
You're just talking about
2.
instances that have happened.
No, I'm talking about how the math works, the mathematical probabilities.
How does that work?
I don't know. I'm not a mathematician. I just know that that's a true thing.
But I can imagine that being a true thing where it's like, okay, based on these cases, these are the statistics. No, it's
based on the math.
You say, okay, that doesn't make any sense though.
Well, we'll look it up.
Okay. I hate how they never brought up again. They say there's asbestos, carbon monoxide leaks, and black mold in the house. Never do they get into what the possible repercussions of that are, or bring it up again, or say if they deal with that.
That's why they knocked the house down.
Yeah, it's a good reason to. Yeah. But I mean, he also boarded himself in the house.
You know that after he filmed this, all of the episodes of Ghost Adventures, now he has to wear a respirator whenever he's in a place that might have mold or anything.
Really?
Up to this point, he hadn't done that, but he so he's been exposed enough that now he's he has to.
And the glasses.
And the glasses.
He has to wear a respirator and extreme corrective glasses.
Obviously, it's Satan. Not exposure.
I heard one of the things I heard is specifically they looked up the names of the demons. So they were able to say specific ones. But another thing I wish
I sound like I'm being dismissive of it. I'm not trying to be, but it's at a certain point you just are the style of this makes me, at least at a certain point, just be like
right. Engage us at a level of our skepticism.
Yes. That'd be cool.
So, a way they could have done that better, didn't it feel kind of throwaway to mention that there's 200 demons in it?
Yeah.
Wait, so it's a story about this goat demon that's haunted his dreams, who he then gets accosted by and wants him, yet there's also 200 demons in there? What? That bugged me about this.
Yeah, because it's flippant.
Mm-hmm. Tell us more about have the line. It's even though there's 200 demons in this house, I knew this one had it out for me.
Yeah, its name is this, and we did this research, and we found this reason that it would live in this house or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Build the story for that. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
If you're gonna go goat,
yeah.
Let's fucking learn about it.
Yeah.
Tell me some shit. Make me fucking scared of the idea of the goat guy.
Yeah, it was banking
just because it was in his dream?
Just the visual of it, just the idea of it is all it was sort of banking on. But we want to have fun. Teach us about it. And again, why this one? Why not the 200 other demons? What about those other 199 demons that are supposed to be there?
Well, and also, don't you think that there's sort of a better way to go about setting this premise of the bad guy, of the scary unseen thing? I think it's way more interesting storytelling to say you think it's one thing and then to have it be that and more, or not even that, something way more.
Yeah.
And it actually goes kind of in the opposite direction, where it's it was that, trust me. You know what I mean? It's well, that's nothing then.
He doesn't say trust me. He just says it though.
But that's my point, is he's just assuming that we're going to buy that the thing that walked by the camera that was out of focus was the goat guy because he said so.
Well, he didn't say so about that. It just happened.
You mean he doesn't say after? He does. He says after the fact. He's this figure that I saw that walked by the camera was the goat guy.
Got it.
I mean, we heard it. Remember
After all that, all it does is walk by him.
Right before it walked by, it went, Zach.
No, I know. I meant as far as him telling us what it was, but he does.
I feel like he says it afterwards when he's sort of doing the full-on recap of like all the things.
You know, if even though he almost went blind, it still feels like he got off easy if all it did was just walk in front of him.
True.
He was mad. He was yelling at it though. That was so good.
He threw something at it.
Yeah. Get away from me.
Yeah.
He just, I think okay, I know we're in what didn't work, but just to say his appeal again is he's always moving forward. He's always marching up again. Like,
that's right.
You gotta admire his tenacity, you know?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Anything else? Should we do things of note, which I think we have a lot for? The banal objects under the stairs. That's another example.
Oh, fuck. Yeah, that's true. That whole thing of like jumping from, there's dirt over here to like, that's not, you don't see that in a basement. Yes, I've been in lots of basements that part of it is has a cement floor and then some of it's dirt.
Why not just tell us the objects are in it normally? Why does it have to be like, and then that's when,
right.
And then he's reading off the objects and it feels like, so I found panties and it's dun 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 dun.
Yeah,
a fingernail. Dun, dun, dun,
never
dun, dun,
adds
dun.
up to anything. It's just like, oh, those are just arbitrarily like odd things to be in a pile
just
together.
Let us know casually. Why do you have to make a big
It's a
ruckus
portal
out of it?
to hell. Yeah. It's like, what? That's a fucking leap and a half. Maybe some weird dude liked to collect fucking weird things and bury it in the basement. Like, that's freakier.
Yeah.
Who was that guy?
Right.
Why did he do that?
Just give us the info.
What was his thing?
You don't have to color it so hard, Zach.
Did he really like pink Lee press-on nails? Like, or was that just, he just happened to find one?
Okay. All right. How about it? Things of note?
Okay, let's go.
Things of note!
This should be interesting.
Okay, so this is, I said I watched the Red Letter Media review of this, which was great. You should watch it.
I will.
Mike, he made a really good point, I think, about these shows. Like, we've talked about just this, how the style does a disservice to it. But even if the style was something that would engage us more and that we want to see, what he said is with these shows, which I think holds true, even if it was better, is like, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, as far as if it's something that's too like little or whatever, we're just kind of underwhelmed and write it off as nothing. And if it's too much, then we write it off as nothing because it's too much. Like, there's a sweet spot that's rarely hit. And that maybe that's what you're holding out to. But just to anyone who's like close-minded about this, I don't want to say who's a skeptic, because again, if you're a skeptic, then you should be skeptical to the idea that science as we know it now is all there is to it.
Yeah.
So if you're close-minded about this stuff, then I don't know. Think about that, right? Like, is there anything that would convince you one way or the other to at least be open-minded? And I don't think there is with those people, because you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, right?
True. So there's an aspect of the credibility factor that plays into that.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, just saying that you're the world's foremost researcher on paranormal doesn't make it true. Like, you've done a show a bunch. Like, that's not I mean, it's a form of research.
If you want to convince us, Zach, that you are, show us the doubts you have about yourself.
And show us data. Like, actual, like, do a study, like a peer-reviewed fucking study that, like, other people can, like, attempt to recreate and show their results, Okay, like,
but to bring, I guess the point I was trying to make, and this is things of note, what is interesting to us. I just thought that it was interesting that even if these shows were better and could try to get people to, like, be more open to the stuff, it feels like they couldn't be, because if it's too little evidence, if it's something small, it's too little evidence, and if it's something that's
Yeah.
too big, then then that means it's unrealistic. So it's not real.
Yeah, and it's
right?
it's also it is the you're producing entertainment that is targeted at the median, wide. Who can we capture the widest net? And so they're gonna be in that weird sort of middle ground of like, if it's too science-based, it's Nova, and your viewership is very small. And if it's too over the top, it's, I don't know
YouTube,
what it would be.
something?
Yeah, it's YouTube or something, and there's, people don't really get on board.
I mean, wait, can you get more over the top than this, though? I think it's, if it's over the top, it's Zak Bagans.
Yeah, but it's but you're targeting it's for entertainment. Right. And I think that sort of, that, in a way, makes it, I don't know. It's a wide net audience. You're trying to appeal to lots of people. So you're using sort of the reality TV construct, or what they believe is catching the most people, the most exciting thing.
Yeah.
As opposed to, like, I don't know, what's a really fucking amazingly well done show that people were always like, how come more people don't know about this? Like that kind of thing exists. Mm-hmm. And I'd be more interested in a version of this that leans into that realm. I'm not actually sure how you do that, or like what that means specifically.
We've been saying that this whole time, yeah.
So,
but I just wanted to bring up even that I don't think would get to certain people any better.
No, I think I think the audience that, well, I don't know. I mean, I was gonna say the audience that wants sort of what we're talking about,
which I think is bigger now. I think the bar is.
I think
higher.
It is bigger now. I agree.
Maybe than
like
1999.
the precedent of this that has been set,
right? So
is targeting a different group of people.
Zak Bagans' style, we could say, originated like in that Fear kind of style, that TV show. And
it's
my point I'm making is that's 20 years old though.
I know he's like Ed Hardy incarnate. You know what I mean? Like he's a Von Dutch fucking commercial. He's such a like man out of time at this point.
Yeah.
Right? Like the fucking like barrel-chested tough guy with the black like long-sleeved skin-tight shirt and spiked fucking gelled hair. Like that, we've moved on. Nothing wrong with it, I guess, but it's just it's same with Chris Angel. It's like Chris Angel's stuck in 1994 or something like that forever.
Yeah.
And it's like at a certain point, like you should adapt and kind of evolve too. And the less he does, and I mean Zak, the less we get on board with him, I think.
I know, it's just funny, like this is to look at this film and then see 2018 next to it,
Oh my God. I know. Yeah, it's fucking weird. It was filmed in 2014.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah. Like,
I feel like we're just repeating. I mean,
a little bit, yeah.
Okay. So should we get into...
I just really want my best friend to grow.
Yeah, Zak. Come on. We do love you, though.
Yeah. Come over. Let's talk about it.
Please. Let's be the starting off point for the next gen of ghost hunting shows.
He lives in Vegas, I think. I think that's
with
where
his
they're
buddy,
set.
Chris Angel, I guess.
That's right. Maybe that's the problem. He's stuck in Vegas, like Vegas world.
Tim, I really think we should go to his museum at some point together.
I'll fucking do it tomorrow.
Yes. That will be our first bonus episode. Okay, so let's talk about, for people who just want to say this is all BS, which I am open to, just as I'm open to other things. There's a middle ground is okay.
And I think it's a fair thing to think.
So, yeah. So
it's a produced for entertainment thing.
But let's say this film is connected to a real life case. So what I want to focus on is
great.
let's pretend this film doesn't exist or use the film as evidence of an expansion of this case.
Okay.
Now let's you and I only talk about this case.
Okay.
And the implications of it being faked or not. Because again, we could be in the mindset of like,
I see where you're going. Yeah.
This is all because none of this stuff was. I mean, maybe this was all because of, you could say, the chance of having a Zak Bagans documentary made out of them. But no, is that there's the first implication of it being faked. Like,
it's the same reason, like, you can go down the pathway in the same way that the Amityville horror sort of house is widely considered a hoax.
Yeah.
And there's stuff to support that idea, and then there's people who claim otherwise.
So as far as, this one doesn't have that same, officially a hoax label on it.
No, it
This
doesn't.
is still an open
it's
case.
Probably just too recent.
All right. So I'm going to sort of say things about the case, and you talk about what that means if it's faked, okay?
Okay.
Understood. So the events of this case, again, way before this documentary ever happened, anyone was attached to it, it's detailed in nearly 800 pages of official police records.
Okay. That's interesting.
So what would that mean if it's being faked? That the police bothered that someone had to make up that much information, that the police were that gullible, or because they wouldn't have done that unless the first order of business would just be to write off, it's just these people, which they try to do first, or these people just have this problem, write it off. Yet they got on board enough to bother giving a police case. So,
well, but there's a problem in so far as we don't know what those 800 pages contain.
Yeah.
Now, it could be we don't know if there was recurring domestic things happening that added up to that. We don't know if there was,
Tim,
crime in the neighborhood.
I had read it now, but I didn't.
We don't know that. So it's like, it's all just speculation as to, like, again, we're making a leap that because there's 800 pages, that it implies that there's 800 pages worth of stuff about haunting.
Okay, but that
Right?
is what they're.
That's the implication.
No, it's the suggesting stuff that it contains instances of things they can't explain.
Well, look, there's a way that you can hoax it.
This one's a bad
though.
example because you're right. We haven't read it ourselves.
True, but there's a way you could do. Look, if it's a hoax, you could easily get 800 pages worth of police reports because you, the hoaxer, are continuously claiming things and calling the police. That alone. You do that 20 times, you've got fucking 500 pages of shit.
So then if this is faked, then hoaxers bothered to call the police 20 times.
Sure.
All right. Next we have the woman who worked with the child's care saying that she went to a psychologist afterwards and was speaking very sincerely about being traumatized since this event.
Well, I think there's a couple factors that exist in this. There's the money factor. If somebody says, "I'll give you $5,000 to say this,"
so you're saying that this poor family paid 3 city professionals off to fake that they saw this happen in the hospital room?
Because that account of her doing that is post. It's a post fact, right? She interviewed with Zak saying that that's the result of this experience she had. And I think that that interview, like her leaving and then like going to a psychiatrist and all of that and not living in town anymore.
This all happened before the documentary. The thing that happened in the hospital room with those 3 city officials happened way before the documentary.
I know.
So who would be paying them in that sense?
No, what I'm saying is in this case, the facts are that soon after she was involved in this case, she quit that job, moved, and got a psychiatrist or psychologist, right? Those are the only actual facts we know. In the interview that we see with Zak, she's claiming that the reason those 3 facts happened was because of that case. And I'm saying that she could say that because they asked her to say that that's the reason. It could have been any reason.
Okay, well then forget her moving out. Just about as far as
her account?
3 city officials shared this account.
I, as a kid, was super, super acrobatic and agile. And I, honest to God, think that you could do essentially what they're claiming as a kid. If you were holding on to somebody...
Which he was, yep, the grandma's hand.
Exactly. You could run your feet up a wall and do a sort of a flippy flop.
Right.
I really think that you could do that. And if he's, any type of normal kid who likes to have spaz outs, or even further, is being fed all of this stuff about like, oh, something's wrong with you, and you're like, the effect that has on a kid.
What about not the walking up the wall, but quote, lifted and thrown into the wall with nobody touching him, according to the DCS report?
Yeah, that one's weird. I don't know. I mean, have you seen people throw themselves around? It can be really freaky, but they can do it.
Can they?
I mean, I could jump across the room, yeah. I mean, doing stunts for acting stuff, I've had to do that.
No, but they have a wire.
No, I'm saying I've done it without the wire stuff. Like, you can do it.
But how they're describing it is like you can't...
I think the broader thing about this is comes back to the suggestibility thing.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that those people had seen these things in isolation without ever having been told anything about a haunting, demons, Satan, any of that. And none of them grew up in a community that talked about those religious things as a fear point for how they view the world.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a problem. It's Salem witch shit. Once the idea is in your head, you will expand on what you see to such a point to make it bigger than it was.
So does that apply to like what you also say? I guess this. So you're saying if it's faked, then these 3 officials were based on prior modes of belief, seeing more than what they saw.
Yeah, and then you get into the sort of the problem of when one person says, oh my God, did you see that? It was this. The reality shifts because it's exciting and you go, oh my God, yeah, that is what I saw. And so you get, I think there's a term for this when it's like, it's group thought or something like that.
That is a true thing.
So I'm just saying that could be how the end sort of story of it came about, that, a little idea or a little act happens, and then the idea that makes it bigger gets sort of spun and,
okay, so
expanded.
Do you think the main woman and family it concerns that they are a victim of that, or that they are sincere hoaxers? Because we'll have...
I don't think we can say.
Because, yeah, so you have like the instances of what they saw and heard being true, as far as like paranormal activity style with like footsteps appearing. Oh, and to bring back the cops again too, you had the cops discover oil on the blinds. They said they left the room for 20 minutes, then came back in and it was back there. How about that one? Where do you think the oil came from?
I don't know, but there's weird shit that happens in nature all the time.
When you have asbestos combined with black mold, and you have with carbon monoxide.
Yeah, I mean, it's just everything's so circumstantial, right? Like, if you were actually trying to hold this up in a court,
how about it's
just too circumstantial.
For you, Tim Aslin, like, is there a tipping point of things that are? When does it stop being coincidental to get you to go, maybe? Like, if there's 5 instances of people going in here and suffering severe injuries, and that's all, that's this coincidence.
Okay.
Would 5,000 get you to make?
It's not about that for me. It's about eliminating the factors of suggestibility. And the way you do that is you have people who know nothing about anything that's been said or thought about the house going in, and they have their own experiment. They're just told, here's what you need to do. You need to just film everything and stay there for a week or whatever.
All right, so
it can't be just one night.
Let's use the cameraman is a good example of that, because he said he didn't believe in any of this stuff.
No, he's not a good example because he's surrounded by people who are suggesting things to him all the time, and that adds up. Mm-hmm. We're so prone to this stuff. That's the thing. Our brains want to, again, find patterns, justify, ideas, all of those things. So you have to perform the experiment in isolation, essentially.
So what did you think of how about like the grandmother who he said, or the woman we're actually hearing talk, he said is the grandmother.
Yeah, Rosa.
Like her, again, the police officer, just all of them in interview in this film. They, if this is all fake or quote unquote, the implications is they're all lying or deluded.
So I don't think they're all lying. I think a lot of them, again, believe these things, but they believe it because of circumstance, right? They've bought in to a way of looking at it.
So what do you think?
Conversely, the other grandmother who we never meet, they do talk about her saying that it's all bullshit.
Yeah. So what do you think it means when the mother and kids reported that they saw something as far as the kid, like, like fully feet above the bed? Again, not like jumping up and down, but they said he was actually levitating feet above the bed.
Shit, dude. I don't know. That's a freaky one.
Yeah. Because that's the one where I feel like you have to say that they were literally delusional, or
right, like having a group hallucination,
right? Because that's the one where I used to say it's like, oh, he was flipping around and that's what they saw, and they thought they saw more. Because as far as if you're just taking what they said is that was like steady, levitated in the air, like Exorcist style.
Right. Yeah, I don't know that one. Yeah, you're sort of, now you get into the credibility of what somebody claims they saw. It's like, I don't fucking...
So Zach having to wear the glasses the rest of his life.
So I looked this up, and, for all intents and purposes that I could find, that he legit has this issue. But again, like I said before, where it came from...
Looking at screens.
...is a bit fucking speculative.
Yeah.
And to imply that it's because of a demon versus any number of other reasons, or just genetics or fucking whatever.
So now you also have the family and friends of the main people involved who say things like, I wouldn't go in that house. Does that mean they are just being ridiculous, overly cautious? Because at what point are they not being ridiculous or overcautious if you've had 5 or more people come out of this place with injuries? Even if it is just coincidence, is that coincidental enough where you're like, those odds are high enough?
No, I just think that's the way people look at shit. They're like, I'm not gonna put myself in. It's sort of the skeptic's like next logical step in a way. It's like, I don't know. I don't want to fucking tempt fate. Mm-hmm. So I'm just gonna not even put my hand in it. So that, I just think, is normal.
What do you think about the church, the Catholic Church, approving the exorcism and having actually a way of addressing these things? It was the first one that the head up priest who gave permission had ever had to do this.
Like the bishop or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's a can of worms. Like, the Catholic Church has very little credibility to me at this point anyway, just because they like to fucking cover up horrible real shit.
Yep.
So I can't really speak to them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like here's an idea. Maybe they wanted to get some PR away from the fact that a bunch of priests have been like raping boys for the last 70 years.
Yep.
And decided, hey, you know, exorcisms are in.
Great.
You know, like, I don't know.
Okay.
That's and by the way, that's not to disparage anybody who is Catholic, but you know, that's just a fact that that cover up existed. And it's fucked up.
So again, you also had this reverend the priest who interviewed way before the documentary, spent plenty of time interviewing these children and became convinced that they were worth helping.
Yeah. I don't know. I worry that it's a product of a belief system or a worldview. If you spend your life believing or being taught and ultimately believing that God and the devil exist, you're going to find that in everything you look at.
So is this house just one? Because, you get it. It's always easy to say when they reported repeated noises, lights flickering on and off, sounds of someone coming up and down the stairs, dogs barking, things like that, right? It's so easy to go, oh, it's a dog outside. It was just this house, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But at which point, is there ever a point, like it's, that scene in Poltergeist where they're talking about, Ryan documented this object move across the room over 5 hours, and then he opens the door and everything's flying around.
Is there a point like that in this?
Yeah. Do you take someone who's, if you, Tim, like we're sitting there and you hear noise and you go, oh, that's just that. And imagine they just keep escalating and escalating, which is essentially what happened to this priest. At a certain point, there was a tipping point for him of, okay, I'm actually going to help these people now.
Yeah.
But is there that for you where you do you have, if all the chairs around you just started lifting, boom, 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 like you saw them shaking around, do you go, oh, this is just an isolated earthquake to just this point, or if you hear Tim,
I'd be freaked out. But I guess, my ghost experience is sort of telling in that, in order for me, one of the science things that I think is really important in any experiments is it recreatable? Can you have it happen again? And until it does, I will always be, until I see the ghost that I saw again, it's always just an isolated, who the fuck knows?
Well, that's what I'm saying. These are beyond isolated incidences, though.
Right. So for me, I would need to be in a position to have it be repeated in a way that can't be explained away.
Right. So that's
sort of the line for the
priest experience.
But I have a really hard time.
I think the implications of all to have that many just sort of odd things happening in the house, that makes me think that it would have to be intentionally faked. I don't think if there's that, if what they said is true as far as that many incidences of sounds like that and stuff happening, then for me, it's not just creaks in the house and waters things. It means that someone is deliberately doing those things.
Here's a problem I have, though, with the credibility of all of this. Where's the documentation of any of it? So you're telling me over the course of however many years that the priest was going there that he never once brought a video recorder or a recorder or has notated documentation of these instances?
So the absence of evidence is evidence of absence for you?
No, but it's just it undercuts the credibility that at no point did he think, shit, if it keeps happening, I want to go back to my friend's house and put a fucking camera there and just roll it all the time, because I want to catch it again.
If I was his family suffering from this and you were coming to help me, I would trust you less if all of a sudden your mission became about proving ghosts versus helping me.
Okay. Well, tough noogies.
Great.
I mean, I think it, in a way, you could use it to help them understand what's actually going on and potentially say, look, what you're experiencing is not paranormal. Mm-hmm. But when you have a mindset that is prone or is blinded by your worldview, you're not going to do that. And that's very convenient to perpetuate that it's, falls under the category that you're the expert in.
Yeah, totally.
So
then some things that the article was interesting, and this reporter showed up on the news, and she refused to answer what she thought was, that the news reporter kept being like, oh, so do you think there's places haunted? Do you think this actually happened, kind of thing? And all she kept saying, and this is what made me like this woman, the reporter Marissa Kwiatkowski from the Indianapolis Star. She's almost drumming up more intrigue, but she refused to answer. Yeah, she just kept repeating, I just reported what everyone said, and that's I'm not, and I leave it up to you. And then what she finally did get her to say was that I do believe that these people believe what they say.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I mean, I agree.
Yeah.
That I think a lot of people, belief does not equal truth.
No, but I think it rules out more of the angle of being able to say this is all deliberately being faked. To put that against where I said to have so many sounds happening over and over makes me think this has to be being faked by someone. Granted, it could be by someone else. There could be someone who's just totally staging this.
There are cases of fucking people living in like the crawl space of a house for years without being fucking found out. I recently heard a couple stories of that kind of thing, and it's fucking nuts.
But so could that person in the crawl space get on the police's radio and say, "Who in there?
Who in there?"
I mean, it's not impossible,
exactly.
But seems less likely. But
again, that'd be the implication.
Yeah,
of what you're saying. Yeah, the quote from the article. So the main cop in it, Austin, a 36-year veteran of the Gary Police Department, said he initially thought Indianapolis resident Latoya Ammons and her family concocted an elaborate tale as a way to make money. But after several visits to their home and interviews with the witnesses, Austin said simply, I am a believer.
Also, if they made money off of that, it wasn't much, because we saw where they moved to. It's not a house.
Not any better.
They downgraded. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't buy this idea that they were somehow conniving to get money. I don't buy that. I think they think, based on the folklore around the house that already existed and whatever preconceived notions they had about paranormal stuff, the devil and whatever.
I read. So that's true. Yeah, they could have been religious people before, but there was actually a brief mention of this house, which kind of supports what you're saying as far as them being just the religious beliefs. But there couldn't have been any influence about the house itself informing them, because there was no prior instances of anything happening at the house, is what this article said, at least.
No, that's not true, though. Didn't the woman who, I'm not saying that's not what the article says, but in the documentary we watched, the woman who had grown up there, didn't she say that her brother died in the basement and committed suicide?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, so it could have just been that. Yeah.
So this is a bit of a leap, but I think it's reasonable to assume that the neighborhood knows about that, and that has formed opinions about the house,
the landlord,
that lore,
whatever it may be referring to. The landlord said, quote, there were no problems in the home before or after Ammons and her family lived there. So really, I mean, it's what started though too. And how about this? The first thing that they said.
I don't know if I buy that. That's a landlord. That's what landlords say. Let's talk about trustworthy people.
So okay, well, how about what? Let's say what is it again? Is it a complete manifestation in their imagination about the very first thing that they said happened, which was straight out of Amityville Horror, that flies kept appearing during winter, that no matter how much they killed, they wouldn't go away.
Yeah, I mean, I lived in a house that would happen. Like, it's because the flies lay eggs, and then it gets cold early, and then the eggs don't hatch until it warms up again, like when you turn your heat on and the fucking eggs are inside and you've closed all the windows in that time frame and put the storm windows up instead of the screens. So, et cetera, yeah, flies hatch in your house in winter.
I wish I could see you there, because I feel like what they would tell you is what they saw is, no, but these were coming back faster than just being egg-laid.
I think we're all just too prone to fucking exaggeration. Like, why do I have a bunch of fruit flies in here? It's not because of fucking Satan. It's because...
She didn't say that, though, at first.
No, I know, but it's just the suggestion is that it's paranormal.
I mean,
it's unsubstantiated claiming. It's just, you're just jumping to a fucking conclusion. It's like saying the earth is flat. It's
but
like,
I'm not,
is it?
I wasn't jumping to a conclusion.
No, I know.
I was just trying to say though, like, why not believe them though, that you just immediately try to say, no, it's not as severe as they actually said. And I'm just saying, well, what if we just give them the benefit of the doubt that there were as many flies?
Maybe there were a fucking bunch of flies, and maybe it was some odd, just an odd circumstance that caused that. That's more likely than it being paranormal.
Great. So it was a very odd circumstance. Sure. These flies appearing. Okay. Great. Well, that's kind of it.
Like I was going to say, there's a lot of fruit flies in my apartment because we fucking are stupid, and I didn't take the garbage out, and there was, food in there that they got into, and then we left beer cans out without rinsing them, and they love that shit, and they fucking, you wake up one day and there's 500 of them, whereas before there were 2.
Yeah.
That's not, I could be like, oh my God, why are there so many? Mm-hmm. It's like, there's a reason. Usually there's a reason.
But you don't have 500 flies in here.
Well, I killed a bunch of them.
No, but
they're floating around in our face right now.
Right. But again, I'm saying you're trying to say you're trying to say as if you have an idea of exactly how many there were.
But that's my point, right?
Yeah.
What I just did was exaggerate the reality because that's what we do.
Right. But what if the reality was that all those flies were there?
But we can't know. We can't know whether or not they were exaggerating.
So then the implication you're saying is that they were exaggerating it.
The implication, or what I'm saying is that we as humans are always prone to exaggeration when anything unusual happens.
Right.
Right? And even in just retelling stories, we have a very hard time not exaggerating.
Right. I just think on a certain level, though, it's
creating a narrative.
I think you remember how you talk about the fear of not, like, the deepest fear point I have is kind of not being believed on a certain level. Sure. So I'm just getting at, what does it mean to just tell these people, if let's just say, for the sake of the argument, that there's something, as you said, just weird and inexplicable, not connecting it to Satan, these crazy incidents where just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of flies, as they reported, just appeared, and they couldn't, as much as they killed them, they'd still be there. If I told that to someone and they were just like, to me, like, oh no, but it's just like, and they just said what you said about your fruit flies here, I'd kind of be like, well, whatever, fuck you, man.
That's
like,
fine.
This is what I saw. But I'm saying, is that fine? Is it you're completely closing yourself off to this other person's affirming or not affirming their own sanity?
No, I'm without being there and without having the conversation with them, I'm drawing a generalized conclusion that it's more likely that, well, just that I can't know what the actuality was, right? And they aren't giving me any other information to suggest anything, to confirm or deny what they're saying.
What would you have said to me had I been the one who had your ghost story and I told it to you?
I don't know.
Tim, do you believe me that I saw that?
Yeah, I believe that you saw it.
Yeah.
But like I even say with myself, like, was what I saw like a ghost or
Tim, you know
paranormal?
What? I don't know what it was, but I mean, it was certainly paranormal. I can't explain it, and I think the likelihood of it being a flashlight through the trees is less so than it being something I can't explain.
Yeah. Yeah, but that would just that's where it would start and stop.
Yeah.
Because again, until you can test it or get more information,
well, good, then that's
recreate
right.
it. That's what I'm saying. But I am saying like,
well, I'm glad you'd believe. So then what if I told you about tons of flies appearing? Is that more of a leap than the...
No, I think because that's a thing that can happen that we know of, right? Like you could come up with an experiment or you could find ways to test that. Or we could look up historically like circumstances that would make that the case because flies exist in... Like, we know that, right? Like, so there's all sorts of... It's Occam's razor. There's all sorts of possible explanations that are super, super simple.
Yeah.
That aren't paranormal. With the ghost thing, that becomes less and less true.
I think this is sort of aside everything that we're talking about, but just what I was trying to say earlier of that story of my friends did a documentary on a woman who all this tragedy happened around her. That coincidence to me is paranormal. I consider that extreme coincidence to be paranormal. Like inherently, you know what I mean? It's not...
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, sort of by definition, yeah.
That's what I'm going to say. I don't know. I don't see why crazy coincidence can... We should be going, oh, it's a crazy coincidence, not, oh, it's just a coincidence. Like... Yeah,
I think you should acknowledge that it's wild. And it's like, whoa, what are the odds? But also, the beginning of Magnolia is, a sort of a good, the movie Magnolia is sort of a good example of that shit. Crazy shit happens all the time. Things that you think just couldn't happen. Like the fuck, I don't know what a good example is, but shit like, it's just the world we live in.
I think we're on the same page, but I just get, I don't know. I just don't like when people apply a just qualifier to crazy coincidences.
A what?
A just saying it's just a coincidence.
Yeah.
I think it's more exciting. I think it's more inexplicable. Coincidence is inherently unexplainable, inexplicable. Where I think I don't get the whole just a coincidence thing.
Yeah, I don't really either.
I think it's for things beyond our understanding. That's all.
I think there's a difference between saying it's just a coincidence and being like not prone to the excitement over it.
Maybe I'm just trying to say is that there's an in between here that there's people be open to.
Yeah, there's
so the last
crazy
thing,
shit happens all the time.
Just to end the end note, just if we're that a lot of this is a summation of the article. LaToya, main woman involved, she said, when you hear something like this, don't assume it's not real because I've lived it. I know it's real. So maybe to your point, you certainly don't doubt she thinks so.
Yeah. And also,
but I guess to my point, it's well, who am I to say?
You can't tell somebody that they didn't have the experience they had.
Yeah.
You can't tell somebody they don't feel the way they feel, right? Like they're a brain in a head doing their own thing. Like their reality is their reality.
Right.
No matter what. But you can test the claim.
Theoretically. Yeah.
Maybe not always, but you can try.
We're just where I'm coming from again. if I do have a point to make, is I think like I've been hurt for sure. Like you are susceptible. This is why humans are different, and we have a balance there's a balance in the end because we have people of the extremes. Not extreme, but the place I'm coming from in this whole spectrum is like, yeah, you could say gullible, or I'm open to believing, and I've been hurt by that. I don't know. Or I want to give people the benefit of the doubt. That's where I'm coming from. And I can and have been hurt by that. But for me, it's more important just to do that, kind of like in Dead Don't Die, when remember we talked about the two extremes of Bill Murray, no matter what, against all odds, deciding to comfort, even say what he knows against Joe. You want to give people the benefit of the doubt. So for me, it's more important just as to interrelate with each other as a species, to just say, you know what, I don't know. Okay, LaToya, you tell me, don't assume it's not real because I've lived it. I know it's real. Okay.
Yeah, I think there's a big difference between telling somebody they're wrong, being dismissive of what they think and feel and have experienced. And then for me, generally, I want to go one step further. I don't want to be dismissive. I want to be like, okay, that's your experience. So like acknowledge what they're saying, but then say, but can we explore this in a way that might reveal an explanation for the way that you're experiencing things.
Bring it full circle then. And I think we can agree that Zak Bagans' style of documentary is featured in Demon House is not the best way to go about doing that.
Agreed.
Great.
Oh my God! Guys, did you hear that? Get in here! Get in here!
Wait, shh.
Okay, Tim, I think
Wait.
What?
Do you hear that?
What?
Well, you didn't hear it because I was shushing you.
Okay, Tim, it's too late. We can't take it back. This is officially our longest episode, so let's cut the shtick.
Possible?
Let's cut the shtick. We were done with Demon House. I think we ended on a good note. How about you pull a movie for us?
We don't want to recommend Dead anything?
Oh, yes. God damn it. Sorry. I'm like so ready.
I know, me too.
Okay, RecommenDEADtions.
Go for it.
You go for it.
No, you go for it.
You go for it.
God damn it.
Okay, fine.
I don't have
you want
one.
Me to go for it. Okay, well, I did Man on the Moon last time. I don't think I've recommended Deaded this yet, but I loved it when it came out in theaters in 2011 and just rewatched it, and it holds up still today. Scream 4. I think it's got, I mean, the original is the original. It's great, but Scream 4 is incredible. It does everything the original did for now. It tells you the script is just so smart. It's so engaging. I wish Kevin Williamson, we had the equivalent of Kevin Williamson making Ghost Adventure things. If you haven't seen it, you got to see it. And I could not believe it was 8 years old now because it's how it's about modern films or modern horror films. It still feels concurrent. Like we're still kind of in where horror films were as far as the glut of remakes and all that. And it's incredible how it defines the new rules of horror, yada, yada. Anyway, yeah, Scream 4 was as good as I remembered.
Man, I don't really know what mine is. Shit. I should have prepared one.
Okay, well, how about anything, if you enjoy Zak Bagans type things, because you watch stuff, anything else related to this you can recommend at us?
I mean, Ghost Mine.
Great, okay.
It's actually kind of fun. It suffers from the same thing, so. But if you can find Ghost Mine, I don't know if it's out there on anything right now, but it's only that one season.
And what a season.
It was fun.
All right. Now
there's like dynamite. It's got everything you could want.
Now we can do next week's movie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I'm pulling?
Yeah, because I pulled this movie.
That's right. Thanks. Okay. Ooh, Starry Eyes.
Oh, I haven't seen that. Well,
2014.
Clearly. You haven't seen it?
I don't think so.
Great. Well, then we'll enjoy it together next week. In the meantime, you can
I've
find
seen the
us.
poster.
In the meantime, you can find us at dismemberinghorror.com.
Yep, and at Dismembering Horror on Instagram, and at DisHorrorPod on Twitter, and I'm at Tim Haslin.
I'm at Mayor McDuffie on Instagram.
Yep.
But you should recommend us something to watch, because that's our favorite.
Yeah, you could do that by going to dismemberinghorror@gmail.com.
Or any of the other places we just mentioned. You can let us know.
Yeah.
All right. Well.
Or, yeah, just add us.
In closing, thanks for listening.
And we'll see you next time.
Goodbye.
Who in there?